The world of the Red Ochre clan was etched in shades of brown and gray, a vast, rolling tundra under a sky that stretched, vast and indifferent, from one horizon to the other. Life was a brutal, beautiful rhythm, dictated by the migration of the herds and the gnawing hunger in the belly. Their home was a series of limestone caves carved into the side of a great hill that the clan called the Stone Mother. The caves offered shelter from the biting winds and the prowling cave lions, but true safety was an illusion, a fleeting warmth between the desperation of one hunt and the next. Young Zant was a creature of the spaces in between. He was not the strongest hunter like Kor, whose spear arm was a thunderbolt, nor was he the fastest runner like Run, who could track a reindeer for a full day and not tire. Zant's strength lay in his eyes and his hands. He saw the world in a way others did not. While they saw a herd of bison, Zant saw the subtle limp of the old bull, the way the calves stayed in the protected center, the pattern of their movement like water flowing around rocks. His hands, though not powerful, were precise. He could nap a flint arrowhead so sharp it could slice a floating feather, a skill that earned him a quiet, almost invisible place in the clan. The most revered and feared beast of their world was the woolly mammoth. They were walking mountains of flesh and fur, providers of meat for a whole season, hides for the coldest winters, and ivory tusks for tools and talismans. But they were also death on four colossal legs. Every hunter knew the stories. Every hunter carried the scars. Zant carried the memory of a hunt gone wrong. It had been 2 seasons past. The clan, desperate after a long, fruitless winter, had decided to hunt a mammoth. Zant's father, a wise and respected hunter named Tar, had led the charge. Zant, then just a boy on his first great hunt, had been tasked with creating distractions, throwing stones to guide the beast towards a cliff edge. He remembered the chaos, the trumpeting roar of the enraged mammoth that shook the very air, the ground trembling under its charge. He remembered his father, brave and steadfast, landing a deep spear thrust in the creature's flank. And he remembered the mammoth turning, its great, curved tusk, as long as Zant was tall, sweeping through the air. Tar had not been fast enough. The memory was a shard of ice in Zant's heart, the sight of his father thrown, broken, against the rocks. The hunt had failed. The clan had lost its leader, and Zant had learned the true meaning of fear. Now the clan was struggling again. The deer had moved east, the bison were scarce, and the shadow of hunger was falling over the Stone Mother. Kor, the new leader, was a man of action and little patience. He believed the only answer was more courage, harder fighting. "We will hunt the mammoth again," he declared one night, his voice echoing in the main cavern. "The spirits demand our bravery." A murmur of fear and agreement went through the clan. They needed the meat, but Zant felt the old, cold dread wash over him. Bravery was not enough against a mountain. His father's bravery had not saved him. It was old Mava, the clan's shaman, who saw the turmoil in Zant's eyes. Her face was a web of wrinkles, her eyes 2 dark pools of ancient knowledge. She did not speak of the hunt. Instead, she beckoned Zant to follow her. "Bring your charcoals," she rasped, her voice like stones grinding together. "And the red earth." She led him away from the bustling life of the main cavern, away from the smell of wood smoke and roasting meat, deep into the belly of the Stone Mother. The passage grew narrow, forcing them to squeeze through tight openings. The only light came from the sputtering tallow lamp Mava carried, its flickering flame casting monstrous, dancing shadows on the walls. The air grew cold and still, the silence so profound that Zant could hear the beat of his own heart. They emerged into a vast, hidden chamber, a dome of rock that felt like the inside of a giant skull. It was a sacred place. Zant had only ever heard whispers of it. The Cave of Spirits. "The hunt is a story," Mava said, her voice filling the silence. "When a hunter dies, his story is lost. The wind eats his words. The snow covers his tracks. The clan forgets the truth of it. They remember the glory or the failure, but they forget the how." She gestured to the vast, empty expanse of the cave wall. A story told to the stone does not fade. The stone remembers. She handed him a piece of soft charcoal from the pouch at her belt. Show the stone the story of your father. Zant trembled. He did not want to remember, but Maeva's gaze was unyielding. He took the charcoal, his fingers clumsy with cold and fear. He approached the wall. It was not flat, but rippled with calcite flows and bulges, a landscape in itself. He hesitated. How could he capture the terror and majesty of that day? He closed his eyes, and the memory was there, vivid and terrible. He saw the great mammoth, its shaggy head, its colossal, curving tusks. He saw the broken one, the left tusk splintered at the tip, a detail he had never forgotten. His hand began to move. He did not think. He let the memory flow from his mind, down his arm, and through the charcoal onto the rock. He used a natural bulge in the wall to give the mammoth's shoulder its powerful curve. He dragged the charcoal to create the texture of its thick, shaggy coat. He drew the great, curved tusk, and then he drew the broken one, the jagged edge a symbol of the beast's violent history. He worked for hours, lost to the world. Maeva kept the lamp fed, her silent presence a source of steady encouragement. Zant ground the red ochre with animal fat to create a thick, blood-red paint. With his fingers, he smeared the red into a deep gash on the mammoth's flank where a spear had struck. He was not just drawing a picture. He was reliving the moment, giving the memory a physical form, a spirit on the stone. Then he drew the hunters. They were smaller, stick-like figures, dwarfed by the beast. He drew them with their spears, their arms raised. And then he drew his father, Tar. He drew him standing close, his spear thrust forward, the very image of bravery. He drew the sweep of the tusk. And he drew his own small figure, far away, a stone in his hand, frozen in inaction. When he was done, he stepped back, his body aching, his hands black and red. On the wall, illuminated by the flickering lamplight, the hunt was alive. It was a story of courage and death, captured forever in the heart of the mountain. He had not just drawn a scene. He had faced his deepest fear and given it a name. In the profound silence of the cave, Zant felt not the resolution of his grief, but the beginning of understanding. He had captured the echo of the hunt, and in doing so had taken the first step towards changing its song. When Kor found them, his face was a mask of thunder. Zant had been absent for a full day, and the hunters were preparing to leave. The sight of Zant, covered in pigments, standing before the vast drawing in the sacred cave, struck him as a profound sacrilege. "You play with shadows while your clan starves?" Kor's voice boomed in the confined space, making the lamp flame dance. "You hide in the dark and smear mud on the walls? Your father was a hunter. You shame his memory. He honors it." Maeva's voice cut through Kor's anger, sharp and clear. "He has captured the story so it will not be lost. Look." Kor, despite his fury, could not help but look. His eyes followed the scene on the wall. He saw the great mammoth, its power and rage palpable even in charcoal and ochre. He saw the hunters, their positions, their desperation. His eyes found the figure of Tar, and he fell silent. He had been there that day. The drawing was a ghost, a perfect memory. "It is a true story," Kor admitted, his voice softening slightly. "But a story does not fill our bellies. We need a new hunt, not an old one. A story can show the way to a new one," Zant said, finding his voice. It was quiet but steady. "Look here." He pointed with a charcoal-stained finger at the wall. "This is where my father stood. He was brave, but he was too close. The mammoth turned, and he had no escape." His finger traced the deadly arc of the tusk. "And here," he pointed to another section of the wall, "is the cliff. We tried to drive it over the edge, but the beast was too clever. It found this path." He drew a new series of lines, showing a shallow ramp on the side of the cliff, and it escaped. Zant was no longer just a boy remembering his fear. He was an analyst, a strategist. The act of painting the scene had forced him to examine every detail, every fatal flaw in their previous plan. The cave wall was not just a memorial. It had become a map. The beast cannot be fought with spears alone, Zant continued, his confidence growing as he spoke. Its strength is too great, but it can be tricked. Its own weight can be its enemy. For the next hour, in the flickering light of the sacred cave, Zant did something no one in his clan had ever done before. He used the painting to plan a hunt. He drew new figures, new spears. He showed how a team of hunters could create a screen of noise and firebrands to guide the mammoth not towards the cliff, but into a narrow, dead-end box canyon a short distance away. He drew other hunters, hidden on the canyon rim above, not with spears, but with great boulders they could push down onto the trapped animal. We used the stone to fight the mountain, Zant finished, his eyes shining in the lamplight. Kor stared at the wall. The old hunt was still there, a story of tragedy. But overlaid on it, in fresh, bold lines, was a new story, a story of a hunt that had not yet happened. It was a plan clearer and more detailed than any spoken words could be. He could see the movements, the positions, the timing. He looked at Zant, at this quiet boy who had never been a great hunter, and saw for the first time the strength that lay in his eyes and his mind. There was skepticism among the other hunters. To trust their lives to a picture on a wall seemed like madness. But the clan was desperate, and Kor's belief in the plan was enough to sway them. "We will hunt as the stone tells us," he declared. The hunt began 3 days later. They found the tracks of a lone bull mammoth, a great, old one, its left tusk splintered at the tip. It was the same one. Zant's blood ran cold, but he held his nerve. This time he was not a frightened boy throwing stones. He was a key part of the plan, directing the noisemakers. The hunt unfolded exactly as Zant had painted it. The mammoth, enraged by the fire and the shouts, charged away from the hunters, directly into the mouth of the box canyon. The entrance was narrow, and once inside, the great beast found it had no room to turn. It was trapped. Above, on the canyon rim, Kor gave a mighty yell. The hunters heaved at the massive boulders they had spent 2 days rolling into position. The first boulder crashed down, striking the mammoth on its great, shaggy back. It roared in pain and fury, smashing its tusks against the canyon walls. More boulders followed, a deadly rain of stone. The mighty creature, the mountain of flesh and fur that had haunted Zant's memories for years, finally fell. The clan had never known such a victory. The amount of meat, hide, and ivory would sustain them for a long time. They were safe. That evening, the entire clan, carrying flickering torches, went deep into the Cave of Spirits. They stood in silence before the painting on the wall. It was no longer just a drawing. It was a sacred text, a record of a tragedy, a map to a triumph. Zant stepped forward. With a brush made from horsehair, he took a pot of pigment mixed not just with fat, but with a small amount of the great mammoth's own blood. He painted over the tragic story, reinforcing the lines of the successful hunt. He painted the mammoth trapped in the canyon. He painted the great boulders falling. He painted the jubilant hunters, their spears raised not in a desperate fight, but in victory. He was no longer Zant, the quiet boy who was not a great hunter. He was Zant the storyteller, Zant the memory keeper. He had learned that a man's strength was not only in his arm, but in his ability to remember, to understand, and to share a story. And on the wall, in the heart of the stone mother, he had given his clan a power greater than any spear, a memory that could not be lost, and a plan for the future, written on the eternal canvas of the stone.